welcome. And I hope you're safe and staying healthy and doing your best to enjoy the holiday season as it is right now, and I'll, with everything going on. I so that I don't mess it up, I wrote some notes down, and so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm Dolly Wolf, the founder of One Day Immersion. And it's a great pleasure to offer this online series, Media Mentors, to everyone. Hope it's a way for you to stay connected and know what's going on in the industry from a vast array of experts in the field. And we will continue to provide our sessions in 2021. I'm going to move them to Wednesdays. Hoping that maybe that's a better day for folks, but at the same time. So her LinkedIn page says, applying empathy and thoughtfulness to the media industry. And I looked at that, and I've had conversations with her already, but that's the vibe that drew me in and why I wanted to invite her to host a session. That's just one of the reasons. Nuna Charafeddine is the director of operations at the podcast company Three Uncanny Four, which is a joint venture with Sony Music Entertainment. She focuses on optimizing and improving processes for both content and business production in alignment with strategic goals. She has over 15 years of experience in the media industry, beginning as an intern, maintaining portfolios at a small New York photo agency, to growing video production startups from a few people domestically to over 40 internationally. She's previously worked at 0.0, The Wall Street Journal, Warner Media, fulfilling anywhere from field producer roles to being a talent casting assistant or live show producer. Pretty cool. She now leaves behind, I love this, the days of the cold control room and dark edit suites, and hopes to bring far more empathy and kindness to the industry. In addition, excuse me, I just let somebody in and lost my notes, to being with Three Uncanny Four. She now pursues her MS in clinical counseling after receiving her BFA in photography. And she has a super interesting path, a very candid story to share. So everyone, please welcome my fellow Denverite, Nuna Charafeddine.
Dolly, you're so sweet. You're far too sweet for me. Oh, there's a clapping option in here
too.
Yay,
yay, yay.
Wow, I didn't notice that. That's amazing.
and snapping fingers,
Yes. Thank you so much. That was quite kind of you. That is indeed a little bit about me. And of course, Dolly, thank you for letting me partake in this. Thank you all for being a part of this. I hope you take away something valuable. I hope you take away at least one thing you can apply or feel a little more confident about when you're, thinking about your schooling and, your first professional gig, if you haven't already started that. Definitely feel free in revealing your video if you're comfortable doing so, because I think body language and as much as we can have is definitely useful for me. I'll also engage with you as much as possible. So if you ever just want to raise your hand or interject, you're welcome to do so. This isn't a one-way direction by any means. And I actually want it a little more less conventional. I don't know if I'm allowed to, Dolly, but I would love to at least know, before I tell you who I am, really your names, I see them, but also what you're majoring in, and just a quick what you're hoping to do next. And we can start with how I'm seeing it in order right now, which is it Brielle is who I'm seeing first? Sorry if I'm butchering your name.
Hi, I'm Brielle. I'm currently a junior. I'm studying global marketing at Fordham. And I'm actually really into the theater industry, and I'd love to apply my marketing skills to that field. Yeah.
And we'll see what happens with the theater industry after this pandemic also. Are we all just going virtual after this? All right, thank you for sharing that.
Thanks.
Danielle.
Hello, I'm Danielle. I actually just graduated last week from Pace University. I got my BBA in marketing. Thank you.
Awesome.
Got my BBA marketing and minor in art and entertainment management. And what I hope to get out of this is to, learn how I can efficiently network, especially considering the circumstances that we're all in. I'm still back home in Connecticut. I'm hoping to get back to the city as soon as possible. And I would love to work in music marketing. But I'm pretty open. Like, I definitely want to get into entertainment and apply marketing skills to that industry.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Pablo.
Hi, my name is Pablo. I am a grad student at NYU, the Interactive Telecommunications program. And I've worked with the VR and AR and a lot of other interactive media forms. And that's where I'm intending to pursue a career in as well after I graduate.
Awesome. Are those color palettes behind you?
Yeah, they are.
Okay. I'm partially colorblind, but I am colorblind, but I love looking at colors, even if they don't make sense to me. That's why I wear black all the time. Rin.
Hi, also Pablo. I was really interested in the ITP IMA masters. I went to like one of the finals workshops that you guys have where everyone shows their projects, because I just wanted to know more about that thing. I'm a recent grad from NYU too. I studied media, culture, and communications, and I'm interested in opportunities in tech and media space. And I have experience in project management, UX design, and a lot more stuff like marketing, communications.
Cool. What are you hoping to get out of this conversation?
I really want to learn how to network better, network more effectively, and create like what you kind of said, like create like a profile that could probably seem more empathic or something, or empathetic. I don't even know if that's the actual word.
It is the word.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the winter show is happening on Wednesday and Thursday, just in case you are interested. I'm just going to drop the link in the chat. And it's going to be online, so you don't have to be in the city. We're going to be showing all the weird stuff we make.
Really cool stuff.
So a couple of you have already said that you want to network. It's kind of what you're doing right now, which is like, okay, so we can just end this conversation now. You've already got what you wanted. Well, no, I'm kidding. But this is exactly what it is. It's attending these sorts of things and having these sort of side conversations, right? But we'll move on. Ryan, I'd love to hear what you're into.
So hello, my name's Ryan. I recently graduated St. John's University. My major is actually computer science, so I think I'm approaching this from the other end than what Rin was saying. I've been studying programming and computer things, but our school also had a media thing on the side that I liked attending, like what do you call it? So having to work transcripts and watching behind the scenes, I have experience with that. So trying to bring the two together, humanity and technology, that's really that's really something that interests me.
Awesome. Until technology takes over humanity, then it'll just shift one way and not the other.
Yes, I suppose it's a when and not an if.
Exactly. Yeah. Hopefully I'm long gone before that happens. But Amber.
Hi, I'm Amber, and I'm just about to graduate from the Graduate School of Journalism at CUNY. And where I'm studying Spanish language and health science journalism. So I'm really excited about the prospects of merging my love of audio and theater and also health and communications backgrounds. So that's what since you have worked in a podcast, and this is also like for other communications, aspiring communications professionals or current communications professionals. I'm just excited about getting that energy and just thinking about how to get started.
Well, you're giving me life and energy right now with that
Thank you.
excitedness. So thank you for
that's so cool, Pablo. Sorry, I just
that. Thank you for sharing that. Is it Kayla?
Hi, yeah, I'm
Hi.
Kayla. I'm from North Carolina. I graduated last December from North Carolina State University, which is not the most ideal timing in the world. I know a lot of us are in kind of the same boat right now, but I'm really open to anything media, communication, marketing, especially being a more recent graduate. I know it's kind of, you can't be that picky. So I'm definitely really open to anything. I majored in communication, media, and minored in film studies at NC State. And then I joined here today because, again, I'm also interested in networking and kind of continuing to job hunt for a little while. You kind of look at what, you can do differently or what tips people have. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to get out of it today.
And how many people feel the same way Kayla just felt, which is like, can't be too picky right now because of the environment we're in? Like, raise your hand if that's how you're feeling about like the fact you just graduated and you'll just take whatever. Okay, that's interesting. I mean, I will say, I'll get to who I am, but it's so interesting to hear who you all are, at least a little snippet I get, because when I entered the job force after like a year out of college, it was actually during an economic crash. So whether you believe it or not, that was like 20 years ago for me. So I've been in the industry for a hot minute, a little less than 20 years ago. So I also had a similar feeling, like the economy is crashing. I didn't really have a choice in anything, right? So it was just like grabbing at whatever I could. So should I just jump into who I am really quick? I guess that might be somewhat functional for people. And again, interject at any point you want. Okay. I'm just going by the cues that Dolly gave me. I'm trying to be a good student about this whole situation. I have a little bit of a script, which is like over here. So if you see me looking over here, that's why. I'm not ignoring you. I still see you all. So I actually thought about what I would share quite a bit as far as like who I am, like sharing who you are for me seems like such a thing. Like it's big, like it's a big responsibility to yourself. So I just happen to be someone who's been in the industry for a little less than 20 years. I definitely haven't had an ideal path or past. So that was definitely a struggle, and was, especially around your age and straight out of college. So I'm happy to share my path, but remember a little bit around like the education of it and how I entered the industry. Hopefully none of you have to experience in the same way I did, but I did luck out at some points. So do I know a little, maybe a lot about production industry, the media industry, and specifically content production? Definitely yes. So hopefully I can help you in some sort of knowledge around that. So yeah, I definitely thought about, okay, what would be most valuable for all of you to hear from me? And I definitely fell back on this notion of like, in the industry, it's all about being authentic, right? So especially, we preach this all the time: storytelling, being in the media industry, performance, whatever it may be. And even from a technology standpoint, you really have to be like authentic to yourself and authentic to the storytelling that you bring to the table. So I just want to make sure that it's most relevant, like whatever I share is most relevant here. So that's to say, I didn't have an ideal experience around my college years, as I said, and frankly, I was hardly surviving both, from a professional and an academic standpoint, definitely from a personal standpoint, and all of that was a struggle. I will say that's something hopefully that you all never lose sight of as you're thinking about your last years, at college, or your first years professionally, is like, just really keeping in mind, prioritizing who you are, what you stand for, what you believe in the most. And of course, to remain proud of your perspective and your history and your experiences throughout, both professionally and personally. I know now, especially in the media industry, it's really important to be able to see people for who they are and what perspectives they bring to the table. So it's a disservice if you don't bring that to the table. I understand in the beginning years that's like, well, what am I bringing to the table? I'm new. It's your perspective, really. I mean, it's really your perspective. And later on, it'll be your perspective plus your professional experience. So So who I am, well, I'll say I'm mostly human, more or less. We could say that. I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, a partner, a cousin, an aunt. I'm also queer. I identify mostly as being a woman, although it depends which day you catch me on. So that's, for me, okay. I'm Lebanese. I'm also a refugee. I happen to be an individual who lives with CPTSD. So that was definitely, when it comes to confidence and what you're bringing to the table, something that I struggled with a lot, especially with like speaking up when I needed to. I definitely see myself as compassionate and mindful. I'm also a grad student right now, so I feel your pains in being a student. And I'm trying to shift careers potentially, so we'll see what happens there. I don't know. Like Dolly said, I'm majoring in MS and clinical counseling. So I like the idea of merging those two things, but I don't know if there's a space for that. I'm hoping there is, at least, the very least, by bringing like volunteer opportunities to the table for people in the media industry, making sure we reach out to those individuals who otherwise don't have access to maybe something like this, or mentorships, or being able to see what a studio looks like. I mean, that's something that's huge for me. And hopefully emergence of those two sort of things that I've studied all together. On top of all that, and after I said all that, I actually despise labels. They're a bit too definite in nature. And, it's like, I think can be cumbersome, right? It can get in the way of how you see yourself and definitely how others perceive you. So I'm a bit careful about labels. We're all on a spectrum. And it's okay if we constantly change on that spectrum as well. So that's a little bit about who I am. I hope that none of those labels define me for you. And, just like, I'm totally all accepting. I like to be anyway. So I want to pause there for a second. Any questions about what I just said? Otherwise, I'll just move on to my path from university to my current role.
Yeah, I'm just curious about why you wonder whether there's a space for that, or some of your challenges in wondering in thinking about carving out a path that does involve what you're studying now with, I think you said clinical psychology.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
Correct. Yeah.
And production, is that the other path that you want to merge with that?
Well, I'm already in production,
right.
But now just like at a higher level of production, I don't actually produce myself. Because when we often think about, like, especially now, as we kind of talked about, which is like, we're in this certain part in our lives in this really weird era of this year where, companies aren't doing great, right? Just like the economic crash I had to deal with when I was first entering the job force. A lot of things like diversity and inclusion departments, like volunteer work, like, I don't know, a chief of staff or chief of happiness or whatever, things like that typically fall to the wayside. Like this humanity layer when it comes to business during these trying times typically falls away during this time. I'm very cognizant of that, and, it's like, let's just make the company work. It doesn't mean it has to work well for people, which is unfortunate. And that's the part that I'm hoping to always bring to the table if there's space for it, right? Is that you need this humanity layer to anything that you do. But unfortunately, a lot of companies are like, no, don't have the money for that, don't have the time for that, let's just work. That's kind of why I say it might be difficult to merge the two.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah, of course. Because everyone's mean and doesn't give a shit. So that's why. No, I'm kidding. I don't believe that. I don't actually believe that. All right. Now, as far as my path from university to current, there's really no direct line in my path. Like if I started here where you all are at right now, and now I'm here, my path was probably something like this. It wasn't. There was no direct correlation, especially at the beginning. And it seems like a lot of you are fairly realistic about when you enter the job force and what to expect right now. For me, I hardly wanted to attend college. And when I graduated, I had an awful GPA. I'm making up for it now, but it was just horrendous. I didn't want to go. I reluctantly graduated with awful grades. But the one thing I learned is that I had a determination and a work ethic. So the academic portion didn't work well for me, but once I started entering the job force, even as a service industry, I knew that my work ethic really was like, there was no comparison. And that's probably one thing I'm most confident about, is like showing up and being very present when I am showing up. And I will say, you know, for the entry level people that I hire, it seems like that work ethic is becoming less and less, but we'll get to that. And that might be just my old school perspective of things, and you can school me on that a little bit. So I definitely focus a lot on just like hustling, get any job I can. I really wanted to be independent. I really wanted to be out of my household because it was unhealthy for me. So I started picking up everything and anything, from the legal to the illegal. And that was just me trying to get the hell out, you know. At some points, I realized that attending college in Denver, which is where I'm at right now temporarily, wasn't what I needed to be doing, because the industry, the media industry, doesn't exist in all cities, in all states, unfortunately. That's a very coastal sort of thing. It's either you're in California, San Francisco, or LA, especially if you're on the technology side, the more Bay Area than Los Angeles, or you're in New York. Like, these are your options. And there is a reality to that. With marketing, it's a little different, because I would say there's agencies that exist everywhere. You know, it really depends on what kind of marketing you want to go into. But thankfully that spread a little bit more far and wide. So essentially, one day I got an email for an opportunity of an internship in New York for a photo agency. I got that email on a Thursday. I moved by Sunday, and I left everything behind. I've been living in New York for about 14 years now. And it was a risk, and not a risk I would ever advise other people. You know, it's like, it was intense, right? You're couch surfing. I slept on a stoop a couple of times. I had awful roommates. So it's a hustle for sure. It was a big hustle. And hopefully, what I will say to any of you is, if you're still in school or you're about to enter the job force, if you have a healthy and happy work, like living environment with your family, stay there until you're stable. You know, it's like, I get it's not cool, I get it's whatever else, but there's no reason to rush out. That's what I'll tell everyone. Save your money, grab a whole bunch of experience, and you'll just be better off. Although your happiness is first and foremost. So if it's not that and it's not fulfilling, then get the hell out yourself if you can. So that was a little bit of my path. Of course, at some point, and also I want to clarify, I'm going to say the word hustle quite a bit. What I mean by the word hustle really is, I just mean the steps that it will take to get you where you want. So it means studying the thing you want, practicing the thing you want, networking about it and around it, reading about it, just like living it. I think a lot of people think that you just hop into the industry and you start getting the roles you want. That's not going to happen, you know, especially in the media industry. Because keep in mind, when you leave your schooling, you're not entitled to anything, and no one owes you anything. By no means do they owe you anything. That doesn't mean that you don't deserve it. I mean, we all know that our paths are reliant on how we pave them. So definitely keep that in mind. I mean, that's like, should be your focus. But don't expect it, right? It's like, I think there's a lot of entitlements nowadays, and nothing's entitled to you, frankly, you know? So the hustle is real, especially if you're a female, and especially if you're a minority, and triple down on that if you're both, or non-conforming, or any of those things. So that's real, and it's very real in the media industry as well. So hopefully that wasn't too harsh to say. We're just trying to keep it as real as possible. So essentially, I moved to New York. I started making $40 a day, literally $40 a day. I think what my saving grace was really that I had a fire lit under my ass. Like, I just knew that I needed to make it, because my path to fail was super short. You know, it was like this short, but my trajectory to success was far, you know, it was endless, really, because I was open to so much and super flexible. So I started grabbing every opportunity I could get, really, and meeting as many people as I could. I went from like an abusive addict of a boss at that photo agency that I had, horrendous experience. I was picking up one-day jobs as a photo assistant, as a production assistant, as a casting assistant. I organized photo studios. I was working night shifts, literally overnight, as a editor for a TV show for a hot minute. And then I got my break, which was at the Wall Street Journal. And the reason I got that break was because my brother at that time worked at the Wall Street Journal in their just starting video department. They were looking for a freelancer to turn their analog tapes into digital. I am that old. I had to deal with beta and VHS and like turn that into a digital library. And that was my first job in the industry, right? That's when it really began for me. And one of the reasons I was hired, I think, which was weird, kind of opposite of what I just said, is the boss that I had wanted to make a statement, which was hiring someone that looked like nothing like any other Wall Street Journal employee at that time. And it was like a lot of facial piercings, a lot of tattoos. I don't have facial piercings anymore, except for one, but it just happened to work for me. So I totally caught a break. I began as a freelancer, but I then went on as a producer, and I did editing, of course. I went out in the field and shot and produced. And then I became an operations manager at some point, and that's what started for me there. I got lucky. At least I think of it that way. So one of the questions is like, why, what I do and why is it cool? I don't know if what I do right now is cool because it's so business focused. What I do know is I've definitely traveled a lot as, as a producer in the media industry. I worked very closely on a lot of productions. I mean, I've got to meet people that are like farmers in Idaho that I would never relate to in any other way, except we bonded. I've gone to see tribes people in Africa. I think that was pretty cool. And of course, I've definitely traveled across this country and others just in the name of production. I do that much less now. My life is more so like signing agreements and making sure budgets aren't over and hiring the right people at the right time. So not as cool anymore. Sorry to break it to everyone here. But I had my moment. One thing that's really challenging for me at this current job is I don't even listen to podcasts. So I was never in the podcast industry before. I was always in video, TV, production. There was always a visual element. Now it's only an audio element, which is brand new. But a lot of the fundamental, foundational pieces of production are still there, right? It's just less. It's also less of a budget, which is okay too. But I very much enjoy it for sure. I'm going to get into what I think staying connected looks like right now. And I would say this at any time. I think like staying connected right now, it's things we already do. Even if you were in an office or a pandemic wasn't happening, it's never been easier, right? Like we live online. We're constantly online. Are any of you not online? I saw that one person doesn't really do social media, but I mean, you all live online more or less, no? Social media? Yeah. A lot of emailing, texting. I mean, I know that's all we do nowadays. How many people haven't even made one phone call in the last week? Oh, you actually talk on the phone. Okay. I wasn't sure if people still talk on the phone. My parents still have a landline. So I don't know if you see this, but there's a landline back here. So you might hear a phone ring. Sorry, I'll get back to the point, which is, don't be shy in reaching out to people, frankly. I think, there's no protocol to who you should or shouldn't reach out to. Might people not respond? Sure, that might be the case. That doesn't mean you don't reach out to them if you find them interesting, right? So I would say definitely connect with family members who are in the industry. Don't be shy about asking for people to network for you. Never be shy about that, especially in New York. That's just part of the gig. Like, I think second question in when you meet a stranger in New York is like, who do you work for? What do you do? It's not an insult. It's just like, we all know we can stay connected and help each other out. It's just part of the industry. So don't be shy about that. I would definitely recommend reaching out or finding a mentor who will help you stay connected as well, if you don't already have a mentor. And your mentors can change, or you can have a few of them. You could have mentors for different purposes. But I would say stay active with them. Anyone you connect with, make sure that the only time you're reaching out isn't when you need something. But it is also, you know, showing your interest in the industry, showing the interest in what they do, and what you want to do. But, you know, there's definitely a lot of people who just reach out like, hey, Nuna, I'm looking for a job. Can you help me? It's like, oh, I haven't seen you in 10 years, but okay. You know, and not saying I wouldn't fulfill that, but, you know, it's always a little bit nicer if you maybe connected sooner, especially if I don't know you that well. You know, that's my perspective. I also find Facebook groups really helpful. I know that sounds cheesy, but there are a lot of journalism Facebook groups. There are a lot of technology Facebook groups. There are a lot of like gig. So like if you're an editor, even if you're a writer, even if you're in the marketing industry, people like post their gigs. We use it even in the company that I'm at right now. Like we'll reach out to writers and post things on Facebook groups. Some are entry level, some are expert level. So it ranges. I would definitely say look at active Facebook groups as well and just get to know people through them and be active in it. One thing that I find also really important that I did when I was looking for work is keep track of the companies you like. Make sure you know what's like their trends. Are they hiring? Specifically, look at what they're hiring for. Read about the industry. You know, like top of mind. Oh, okay, Spotify just you know, acquired a huge podcast play. I've also heard they might go into the video industry. What does that mean? You know, that means, oh, I probably want to keep looking at their sites. I want to read news about them and I want to know who works there. Am I connected to anyone who works there, right? So it's kind of like a part-time job, really, like getting on top of who you like, and what you want to go after. So I will say you have to be really active in your communication if that's truly what you want, is to enter the industry. And there's no room for shyness. A lot of assertiveness is what I would go for sure. The other part of this is like sharpening your skills. And I'm on the fence as to how I address this part. So I want to flip it to you all. As far as like interviews you've had or jobs you looked at, do you get a sense that it's better that you know a lot of things, like a little bit about a lot of things, or you're experts at one thing or two things? Like, how do you see the industry?
Little bit about a lot.
And how does that make you feel? Do you think that's like, do you want to know? Do you feel like that's what you've learned in schooling, is that you know a little about a lot?
Yeah, especially my major, media, culture, and communications. There's kind of like this idea that the graduates of that major could either go in public relations, marketing, advertising, design, any of those things. And in classes, we learned like a lot of those skills.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I can jump in. I was just going to say, I think it depends, but if the expectation is that you're supposed to know a lot or a little about everything, it can feel overwhelming. Because you might not have all that experience. And I do feel that pressure, like to know all the different like software programs and all these different things sometimes.
That's fair. Amber, you want to say something?
Oh, yes. I think definitely with skills or with our general area of interest, it's like we're asked to be like specialists in that, but it doesn't need to be specific. Like that's what I've been reminding myself of in terms of like, oh, it's not about knowing like content wise, knowing so much about all of this stuff. And as long as you can have that like skill set or that general path where like for instance, storytelling, where like, you know, the basics of the reporting and the writing and the like that sense of story arc and, you know, just recognizing a good story and how to shape one. So I've been like trying to calm myself down in that way where it's like, okay, as long as I can show that I know a lot about this general area and that the other skills or other like forms of content knowledge that I do need to know about, I have that drive or that motivation that will lead me to like pick those up as I go if I'm chosen. So.
Mm-hmm. Pablo or Ryan, just because you're also kind of in different focuses, curious what you think.
Yeah.
I would say. Oh, sorry, Brian. Go ahead.
Okay. I know in programming, they say a lot of the same thing about learning how to pick up a new technology. For a job, let's say, for example, different programming languages. You have, just to name drop a few, you have Java and Python and C++ if you're really old school,
Mm-hmm.
and different structures like loops and different structures like loops and variables. You type them differently, but you still have the same concept in your head.
Mm-hmm.
So from job to job and task to task, you always get that same idea. And even if you want to work from project to project, you might have to learn basically you have to know where code should be.
Mm-hmm.
But even with different jobs, you can sort of get the idea of where everything's supposed to go and the flow of how to work together.
Mm-hmm.
So Pablo, what did you want to say? That's wrong button.
Yeah. So from my perspective, I'd say, especially the world of interactive media, really depends on the job offer. Really depends on the company. Sometimes you see that companies are looking for really, really specific roles. Let's say if you're looking to work in the journalism industry and you're looking into interactive media roles, a company could be looking for the ultimate designer who needs to redo the whole website, or they might be looking for a back-end engineer, or they might be looking for a data visualization expert, right? So it really depends. And these skills, of course, translate from different fields. So what I would say is that sometimes that's the case, but at the same time, if you maybe go to a smaller scale organization, they're looking for an all-rounder that can do different things in different fields, and somebody who has more of a perspective towards I'd say towards the job, but also like a more strategic and more production kind of approach, instead of just having that super specific skill to get that very, very tiny problem solved. So I'd say it really depends in the specific job offer that you're looking at.
That's fair. Yeah, I will say one thing that happens, especially maybe that will happen when you all are entering the job force, just because of the timing we're in, is that being flexible is amazing, right? It's like being flexible in your expectations is amazing. And knowing a lot or a little about a lot is for sure useful. There's something that gets lost in not knowing what you're an expert in, though. Like there should be one or two things that you feel really confident in and you're super skilled in. And also just knowing where your interests lie. Because there have been so many interviews and conversations I've had with people on every level where, I'll ask you, okay, what do you bring to the table? What is the skill? Oh, I do a little bit of everything. For me, all I hear if you say that is like, it doesn't sound like you're excited about any one thing. I don't know what your passion is, which to me as a hiring manager is important. It's not going to be what makes me hire you or not, but it's really important to convey, you've really studied something, and either you're on your path to being an expert in it, or you're just super passionate about it and that's what you want to go for. Maybe sometimes that's not always relevant to the conversation you're having in the present time, but having that in your back pocket is super important. I think one thing that, people are scared of saying, maybe fear a little bit, is like, I do this one thing and I do it amazingly. The flexibility part needs to then come into place, which is, I might not be able to afford you an opportunity where you get that thing fulfilled, but hopefully we can put you on a path for it. And I just want to know you're excited about something, and you should be an expert in something. Ideally, anyway, like sometimes we do hire for someone who does have that expertise in that specific thing. Is it literally like pinpointed? No, but at least I know that person has the drive to go after what they want, what they're passionate about. And I hopefully that makes sense. Especially as a multimedia producer, a lot of people come to the table with like, yeah, I've been a field producer. I've shot, I've edited, I've done scripting, I've done writing. I don't know what you're saying you're good at. It's like I'm totally lost as to what's happening right now. So generally speaking, flexibility, great. Expertise, also great, combined with that. Hopefully that made sense. Anybody have questions about what I just said? Or disagree? You're also welcome to completely disagree with it.
Yeah, I'm wondering then how specific, I guess that's a gray area, and it depends, like Pablo was saying, it depends on like the job we're going for. But I guess I'm wondering how specific we can get about the thing that we're specialists in, if it is the thing that we're specialists in is something as broad as like being really excited about the connection between this and this, or like about storytelling and how to make a story. I don't know, that even that, like, I don't know, the sense of story arc, that can be so general and not specific enough, but then it is something that you can be genuinely so passionate about that you like, no matter what the content area is, you're trying to look for how to make that into a complete story arc. So I don't know, I was wondering.
No, I mean, storytelling is specific. Could you get more specific? Yes. I mean, you could say you're passionate about telling stories about minorities in the world, or how they or just like telling the underdog story. You could be specific in that sort of way, right? But when you're talking about storytelling, people say that too. Are you a videographer? Are you a writer? Are you the one on the mic? Are you in front of the camera? Are you the one holding the camera? Like, so people say storytelling, but I don't know what that means. Maybe you want to write, maybe you want to shoot. No idea. I would say also on the tech side, for instance, like my partner is a developer and a designer. Sometimes that's great, sometimes that's awful, right? Like she can code as well as design. I've hired both those things merged, and I've hired both those things as two separate entities as well, right? Will it come down to how much of a budget the company has or the project has? Yes. But I also would love to hear from that individual. Okay, what are you really strong in coding? What kind of experience or UX design are you used to or really passionate about? Some sort of ethos to all those things. Great that you can do both of them. But for the future, it's really helpful to know what you're really passionate about in one of them. Maybe it is both of them, but it's likely not. Most coders aren't passionate about both coding and designing, but they can possibly do both, So hopefully that clarified. I would say even in marketing, like a lot of people say, I want to go into marketing. What does that mean? You want to be like a social media coordinator and manager? Do you want to write copy? Do you want to make whole strategy plans for how people listen to content? What is it specifically you're talking about? And with marketing, you might not, and other jobs, you might not learn that until years into the career itself. And that's okay too, I mean, I was just actually meeting with interns, potential intern candidates for the company I work at right now. A lot of them didn't know and just said they didn't know. I don't know enough about production. I want to learn more. Cool, that's fine. Then let's talk about what you can potentially learn with us. That's okay too. So totally fine if you don't have the answer right away as well. I know I didn't. All right, where are we now? What part of this discussion am I at? How much time do I have, Dolly? Oh my God.
You can go another, I would say, 10 minutes.
Oh,
if that's crap. Okay.
Without the Q&A?
With the Q&A. Yeah. So if you want to, or actually, however, you know what? Let's put it this way. Let's just keep it going. And then let's keep getting the questions out there, because that's, sure. We want to make sure that our team, gets all of their questions answered.
For sure.
And also just so that, in case we get to a point where we are going to stop, I'm sure there's a way to keep in touch with Nuna and continue the conversation.
For sure.
So. Yeah.
I will go through this next section really quick, which is like just navigating, moving from school to workplace, because there are a couple of things that I would love for you all to keep in mind, because I've hired a lot of entry-level roles. One thing, which I think I already said earlier on, is I can't stress enough how much on top of communication and networking you need to be. When you reach out to people in the industry or people who are connected to the industry, show your excitement and interest in what you're excited for and interested in. Like, you don't know how long that goes, how far that goes when someone just shows a passion, just like a deep interest for wanting to reach out, wanting to become part of the industry, even if you haven't before. So that's super important. Of course, hopefully all of you have done this. Internships, paid or otherwise, could be a really easy step in, but you probably already know that. Entry-level roles, be ambitious about them, even if you think on the entry-level portion anyway, even if you think you potentially might not be a perfect fit, give it a chance anyway, but make sure you're curating your resumes specifically for that job. I find that super important. Like, if you apply to being a videographer, but you're giving me a resume about how you've modeled for the last 5 years, those things aren't connecting. So it's like, just, you might be interested, but I need that resume curated. Personally, I don't read cover letters. That doesn't mean that other managers do not. I don't. I will also say, ask a lot of questions for anyone who you do connect with. Don't be shy about asking questions about how they did it, and how it happened for them, or even the real on being in the company they're in. Like I said, identify a mentor if you can. Be hungry, be super ambitious, and show that hunger and ambition. And last, but most definitely not least, is get your resume tight. Proofread it, please, and make it simple. Like, it doesn't have to be extravagant. Make it simple, make it easy to read. Imagine yourself like when you're on a website. You don't want to figure out how you navigate it, right? You just want it given to you. So serve up that information easily. Also, don't add a headshot unless you're a model or a talent. Don't add your address. It's no longer relevant and can also lead to discrimination. So don't add that. It should just be very simple and straightforward, and mostly focused on your experience as it is relevant to the job you're applying to. So keep that all in mind. I'll stop there since we only have a few more minutes. And I just want to open it up to whatever you want to ask about the industry, about what I do specifically, about what you want to do.
Hi, Nuna. So I remember you just said that you interviewed a couple of potential interns, and you also mentioned earlier how you feel like in your experience you've been interviewing people for entry-level positions, and there's a lot of people, but there doesn't seem to be much work ethic. How can we help interviewers gauge our work ethic? How can we demonstrate it and not make it seem like we're not good workers?
Yeah, I mean, that's really hard to convey, and for me to actually judge, which I shouldn't do on the first interview, but typically that's all we have. We have these 30 minutes and then you might have a second interview, right? There's something that's super important that's beyond your resume, of course, is just your soft skills. And one thing that I've seen that's just missing a lot, although it wasn't my experience in this last round of interviews, is just attentiveness. Just when you're present, be present with me. Be direct, be interested. Don't look at your phone. Don't be late. I mean, these all seem like really basic concepts, but it hasn't necessarily been my experience with interviewees. The amount of people who show up not on time, or not even having your resume with you, whether that's on your phone or on a laptop or digital, whatever. You don't have to print. I get that people don't really print paper anymore, but have it available. And I think it just goes back to that, show your excitement for the thing you want to do. And also, before you show up, I hope you did some homework as to what the position is, or at least what the company is. This isn't me bringing you into the job. It's you wanting the job. I think that's what it is. And of course, when I've gone into the hiring rounds, definitely been some letdowns and disappointments as far as that work ethic. That's why I kind of brought up entitlement. It's no, you have to grind for what you want. So there's no exception to that rule. Yeah, I mean, I know it's not a perfect answer, but just basic knowledge, I think. It's like going on a date. look nice for it, be present for it, show your interest. I call interviews like dates all the time, because it's like you both want to be there, you both want to show interest, and hopefully you're working towards something, like that's the ideal. Yeah. Any other? Of course, you're welcome. Any other questions or just statements?
I had a somewhat of a specific question. You're talking about resumes not putting your address on them, which I find I don't put mine on my resume personally, but I don't know if you have any suggestions, because a lot of the time what I've found is if you apply through most company websites, you obviously attach your resume and sometimes a cover letter, but then you go through the form of filling out your name and maybe your degree, everything else. But then sometimes it does ask you to put your address and it's not optional. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that or what you would suggest when you do have to put it.
I have many suggestions about that, but none of them are nice. Of course, you have to fill it out, right? I would say on your resume, it's most important that you don't. A lot of times through that portal, portals for companies, I've used them. Of course, I've been on the receiving end of them. Of course, I filled them out. It's rare that I look at that address. I usually, rely on the resume information more than anything, because I know how like convoluted those forms can be and how they don't make sense. And it's not the best user experience in general. Unfortunately for the companies that still do it, which I know are a lot, there's really no option. A lot of states, it's actually illegal to even be asked where you're from. So hopefully that changes the sort of usability of those portals, because I think eventually it'll just be illegal to mandate that you submit that information.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Hi again. I had a question about mentorship follow-up or just networking follow-up. And I'm often concerned about, like, that having an extractive relationship with someone. So I always want to only reach out when I have something to, or keep follow up when I only have something to offer someone. But since the people that we're usually networking with in that way, or who are mentoring us, are already usually like at a certain level in their career, and I'm like entering it, I feel as though I don't have much to offer them except like congrats on this project. So I'm just wondering if you have any tips on things that we can bring to the table when we're following up with mentors or other professionals.
I mean, the only thing you can bring to the table is your honesty as to why you're reaching out to them. I don't think there's an expectation of like a mentee offering me something. I mean, from my perspective, it does, for sure. For others, maybe not. But I mean, from my perspective, is always keeping, like plugged into how the youth think, right? Like that's not always present in and around me. But what I do expect is you just tell me what you expect from the relationship and the honesty of what you need. I don't think there's anything to hide around that. And you definitely don't have to present anything to me other than this is what I need, X, Y, and Z.
I guess what I'm asking is like how you pointed out earlier that sometimes, it's happened to me as well. I think it's happened a lot of us where the person is just reaching out when they want something. So I'm like thinking about how to continue that relationship without it being like only when like not doing it just when I'm asking for a recommendation or something like that, or for them to like visit our class, but that I'm like reaching out periodically with something.
Yeah, I mean, for me, what I appreciate around that is just like keeping me updated as to what you're doing, what you're interested in. At the beginning of the relationship, it can even be stated like, hey, I'm really looking for touching base once every 3 months, maybe more, maybe less. Like that goes back to the honesty portion of it again, right? It's like just asking for what you want. And it's okay if it's not every day, every week, or even every month, right? It's like, I think the expectation just has to be set at the beginning. And look, there are plenty of people who reach out to me only when they need something, but that's okay because we've had like the longevity of a relationship for many, many years. And then it becomes that thing where it's like, oh, right, you are in the industry now, I'm in the industry, we can help each other out. It's like there's just that understanding. But from a mentee mentor, I wouldn't think of it too much other than expressing what you need from it and how often you need that thing. You know.
Okay, thank you so much. Because that's held me back sometimes from reaching out to people. Like, I'm just taking from them.
No, it's totally fine. I wouldn't be shy. That's why I said at the beginning, like, don't be shy of reaching out. And it's okay to say, I don't know what I'm looking for, but it seems like you have a great experience. Cool. Tell me what you want to know. You know what I mean?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
Hi, Nuna. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm interested in this question when you talk a lot about mentorship, and I constantly hear, find a mentor, find a mentor. Yeah, I have conversations with different people and a little bit insights on this and a little bit on that from different people, from conversation for 1 hour, for 30 minutes. But how to find this constant mentor?
Yeah, that's like a sacred jewel or something. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was hard for me to find a mentor. I don't even know if I have one right now, frankly. But what was the original question? How do you find one?
Yes.
There should be an app for that. You should be like, findyouриdealmentor.com or something. I mean, Dolly knows better than I do. I mean, she operates a whole.
I don't know better than she does, but I think I always kind of go back to LinkedIn as a source for, first of all, for the kind of company you want to work for, and also for the kind of people you want to work for. And, our organization, we just hosted our big conference that we typically host in New York in person. And this year we did it virtually, and you can actually watch it. I'm doing a shameless plug. It's on our homepage, onedayimmersion.com. And, you will always find people, the executives in the industry, who want to give back. Because there's always going to be students who are looking for guidance and insight and, and a way. And so the key is, how do I find those people that would raise their hand and help me out? Well, what I would do is, or just one thing that I would do is to, if there are people that you've seen in a conference, or that somebody is working for and you admire them, look them up. Look them up on LinkedIn, and look up the organization. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with sending a note of, "Hi, I'm Embar, and I'm this is 2 sentences about me, and I have been admiring your career, and just wondering if there's any chance I could buy you a virtual cup of coffee, a 15-minute starter conversation." You're going to get no's because people are extremely busy. Don't take it personally, because it's just reality. But you're also going to get some yeses, and it may take a little time to set something up, but you have to be in charge of that, and you have to pursue it. Not in too much of an aggressive way or kind of a stalking way, but just, I'm just trying to, get from university into the workplace. You're somebody I admire. Your career path is something I admire, and I'd love to spend, a half hour with you, if at all possible. Ask away. You're going to be surprised, who says yes. And like I said, don't be discouraged on who says no, because it just wasn't meant to be. Or maybe you try it, another time down the line. And also, when you hear somebody say, "Reach out to me," or "Ask questions," or "Let us know what we can do for you," take them up on it. A lot of people don't. I'm so surprised that a lot of people don't.
Me too.
Yeah. I work with one of the most fabulous people in media, and he's somebody I've been working with since early 2000s. He's my chairman of the board. He's my MC extraordinaire of our conference. And everybody wants to meet him and work with him because he's so fabulous. Well, guess what? He actually says, if you have a question, I'm happy to answer it. If there's something I can do for you, I will try my best to do that for you. So when somebody raises their hand and says, reach out, please take them up on it. Don't think it's an imposition. One of the things that Nuna said early on was, how to stay connected. And the one thing that you're doing right now is this networking. You are in networking right now. You're in networking mode right now. So what does that do? Well, you're hearing from somebody you hadn't heard before. You're getting their perspective from somebody who's in the workplace and sharing their background and insight. You're practicing your public speaking skills. You're practicing talking about yourself. The more you do these things, the better you're going to get, the more confidence you're going to get, the better questions you're going to start, asking. So you have to keep doing these kinds of things. I appreciate so much. It's, the holidays, it's crazy 2020. And you guys took the time to spend an hour with Nuna and learn about her and ask questions. I hate to say it, but the other folks that dropped out, maybe because they were uncomfortable about talking, like you guys are talking. I get that. I'm kind of like that too, but you have to push through that. You have to take a big deep breath and kind of be brave enough to stay on and ask questions. Don't make it a missed opportunity, because people really do want to help. And what I have found over the last 10 years of one-day immersion is, I would say, if I'm recruiting an executive into the program and I don't feel that vibe, I just move on. So I'm so lucky to say that the hundreds of people that I've brought into one-day immersion executives are people that raise their hand and say, yeah, I'll help. So you just have to do some research, figure out who you admire, figure out what the companies are that you admire, and just start poking around. And, listen, I'll raise my hand if there's anything I can help with. An introduction, and not, and I'm not saying that the introduction is going to go through, but we can always ask. Mm-hmm. Why not ask? You can, if it's a no, then we go on to the next thing. Mm-hmm. So I went on for quite a bit. My apologies, but I love what I'm seeing here and hearing. I love this connection. I love your questions. And bottom line, we just want you to succeed any way possible. And through hard work, you will. But that's my speech.
And I will say, if you go around, start looking for people you like, and you see that I'm connected to them on LinkedIn, which means you all should connect to me on LinkedIn, ask me if you want the introduction. I don't have any issue with that. The only time I have issue with it is if I have an experience with you where you ask me for a favor, but you don't follow through. That's when I'm out. So the follow through is important, but I will make the connections and we will figure it out if I have it. I have no qualms about that whatsoever. So rightfully so, ask. Worst thing I could say is no, but I probably wouldn't say no.
Thank you both so much for this. Likewise, it's also around the holidays for y'all, and you're doing other work, so really appreciate this.
We're just grinding.
And I love what I do too. So yes. it's a joy for me. But I just want to say to Nuna, thank you so much for being with us today, for sharing your story, giving us your insight, taking the time to prepare the way you did. Really, really appreciate it. So we'll do another thank you clap for our guest and for all of you. And
for all of you.
Yes, and all of you. And so everybody stay right there. Because like I said, I wanted, it's the holidays and the organization wanted to do a little something special for this December bonus. So I'm just going to, instead of the 3 that I was allocated, everyone's getting an Amazon gift card. So I have your emails. I'm going to send them out. I'll work on that tonight and get them out to you so you can start spending some cash and treating yourself. But I just want to thank you. And again, if there's anything, you need from Nuna, from myself, reach out to us. We'll help as best we can. But we're in this together. We want to see you succeed. And thank you so much for supporting our efforts. We really sincerely appreciate it.
And Dolly, feel free to, share my email with anyone in this group.
Okay.
I'm more than happy to have a conversation, whether I'm in the complete alignment industry as you're studying or not. I'm more than happy to help or advise however I can at any time.
Okay, great. Well, thanks everybody. Be safe, stay safe, wear the mask, please.
Take care, everybody.
And take care.